some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
You're listening to Joco Community Radio.
He said, I'm going back to West Virginia. Texas plains really ain't my style. I miss the Appalachians in the springtime. God, I haven't seen them in a while. He said, I miss my family out in Charleston. And I've been craving mama's apple pie. His baby sister's gonna have her first one, and he'd sure love to be there by her side. So first thing in the morning, he's getting on that plane. He picked the perfect day to leave, 'cause it's supposed to rain. But what I don't get is why he let me hold on for so long when he was already gone.
She said, this time I'm headed out to Nashville. I met a man who says he'll take me far. After all these years of searching, I have found it. The chance I need to finally be a star. She said each time I left you, I was trying to find a way to make these dreams come true. And she's sorry that she couldn't take me with her. She thought I'd understand more than I do. So first thing in the morning, she's getting on that plane. She picked the perfect day to leave, 'cause it's supposed to rain. What I don't get is why she let me hold on for so long. She was already gone.
Two suitcases by the front door. Say all we couldn't say before.
All we couldn't say before.
So first thing in the morning, he's getting on that plane.
She picked the perfect day to leave, 'cause it's supposed to rain.
But what I don't get is why he let me push back. Say low, don't you know it's safer where you're right? Yeah, you can always be the one who ran. Or you can stand your ground. Say I won't back down, even when the whole world's against me. I'm standing strong 'cause I know who's with me. Brave in the face of fear. Let 'em know you're here. Yeah, we all got a choice in
Welcome. We had a little extra music there for a second. Sometimes this happens. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, good evening, everybody. I am Tiffany Carlen, and you're listening to Mouthy here on NTX Radio. We've got a great night in store for us, but I want to start out with this. If Julia was a color, she couldn't have been just a single shade. She lit up every room that she walked into and was the loudest person in the room. Her personality bubbled over all the hearts of everyone who knew her. She was rebellious and yet innocent at the same time. She truly saw the very best in anyone she met and forgave the people who hurt her the most without thinking twice. She was 18 years old when her life was cut short. She wanted to be loved. Now, even after she is gone, her color shines on in the hearts of people who know how she feels and in the people who knew her best. To be lucky enough to have been one of those people, I will forever hold the rainbow that Julie was in my heart. She was a victim of human trafficking that cost her life. Let my family's tragedy be someone else's lesson. And that was written by her sister Gwen, and it's so beautiful. Do you need a tissue already? Are we already? We're already there, aren't we?
Almost,
I can
yes.
feel it. So, good evening. I'm Tiffany Carlen, and tonight we're diving deep into a harrowing and often hidden crisis: human trafficking. Joining us is Mary Louise Wells, a devoted mother, determined child advocate, political activist, realtor. We're going to throw that in there
Yes.
because you do that too, and philanthropist who brings a personal and powerful perspective to this pressing issue. Human trafficking isn't a distant problem, it's happening right here in our communities. Let's look at the stark realities. In the United States, there's an estimated, and let's keep in mind that these are estimated numbers, not really, I think, believed or to be a true reflection of what the true numbers are, but an estimated of 199,000 incidents of sexual exploitation of minors occur annually in the U.S., with between 244 to 325,000 American youth considered at risk for sexual exploitation. This was sourced through Google. However, we believe, as Mary and I have already spoken about this, that all American youth are considered to be at risk for sexual exploitation. I don't know how you could put any specific number on, which ones are at risk. So in Texas, in 2024, the Texas Department of Public Safety operations led to the rescue of at least 446 victims and the arrest of at least 874 suspects related to human trafficking. Thank you to our law enforcement professionals who have been so dedicated to helping this cause. These numbers are more than statistics. They represent lives disrupted and communities affected. Tonight, we'll explore the personal stories behind these figures, the systemic issues that allow such exploitation to persist, and what each of us can do to combat this modern-day slavery. Stay with us as we shed light on the darkness and discuss actionable steps toward change. Before we dive in, I would like to first give our love prayers and condolences and love to everyone in Texas who has lost a loved one in the floods, who is still missing a loved one, and an extensive gratitude to all of our first responders who are out there still looking for survivors. And at this point, some are in recovery mode. So it's just absolutely heartbreaking. And it's just terrible. So prayers to all of you. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
And husband Chris is in the background. He's here. He's waving and rolling his eyes like I'm where I want to be, which is off camera. And so we absolutely respect that. But he's been an absolute obvious supporter and advocate right alongside his wife. And we greatly appreciate all the work that you've done, because it never goes, it never should go in the background, that those working behind the scenes with you, Mary, who were also a part of this. And so we greatly appreciate it. So thank you for being mouthy about this issue with me. First, please accept my heartfelt condolences to you and your family for the loss of your daughter, Julia.
Well, thank you.
Because it's an unimaginable experience. And I think that when a child first goes missing, it is, and I have been in that seat as we have discussed this, it is the most heart-wrenching, to your knees feeling, because it's helpless. What do you do? And here you are. So for those who don't know, can you share with us we've heard from your daughter, Gwen. Um, share with us about Julia. What made her light up a room, and what kind of daughter was she?
Julia had autism, so therefore she did not know a stranger. Everyone that she came in contact with, she talked to. If they smelled good, she would stand very close to them so she could smell them. But like I said, Julia didn't know a stranger. She was not the perfect child, by all means, but she had a heart of gold, and she would do anything for anyone if you asked her.
Was she high functioning autistic?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, she
Okay.
was high functioning. When it came to grades, she was not, but she was high functioning. She was, like I said, everybody was her friend, and even my daughter said in there, she forgave easily, and if you were her friend, she would go to the ends of the earth for you.
How old was she when she went missing?
She didn't go missing.
Oh, she
Julia
didn't.
never went missing. No.
Okay.
Julia had actually texted me and told me that she was going to be going with a friend, and that she would be back she was going to go work with a friend, and that she would be back by Tuesday. And I had a conversation with her prior, and I told her, Julia, I don't like this. We don't even know this person, and you keep talking about her. And she goes, Mom, why are you always worrying? And I said, because Julia, that's my job. That's what I do. You think I just sit around twiddling my thumbs when it comes to you kids? I said, I worry all the time. And she's like, I'm an adult. And I was, I got into a little tiff with her. I said, you might be an adult, but you're still our child, And, but that night when she texted me, she was going to go with her friend. Instead of me arguing with her again, I just said, okay, Julia, I love you. And then the next morning is when we got a visit from the DPS officer.
Can you share with us, when did you first realize that something seemed off, that it wasn't right with the friend or this new friend group that she was introduced to? And how did you find out about it?
Julia she had moved in with her, at the time, boyfriend. And he's an amazing young man. Just let's put that out there. He's an amazing young man. And he's a good man. And she called me, and she moved out of our home because we had rules. And then she moved in with him and called us probably 2 hours later and said, Mom, he won't let me. And I said, And I said, well, it is his home, and, he has rules. And she goes, this isn't fair, And I just, I giggled at her. And so she had already moved in with him for a very short period. She may have been over there for a week, maybe 2. I think it was more of a week. And he was getting ready to go into the military. So we knew it would be something. Julia would be back home, so we weren't really all that concerned at the time. So Julia was, she had texted me that night and told me that she was going to go with her friends. And I say that night, it was the night before, but she was killed. She texted me and told me she was going to be going with her friend. And instead of arguing with her, I just said, okay, I love you. She said, I'll be home for prom on Friday so we can get ready for prom. And I said, okay. I wasn't going to argue with her. I was just going to, let her go.
Did you find out how long this friendship and this relationship was going on for before?
I still don't know.
Still don't know.
And to be honest with you, we won't know until we go to trial. We don't know how she met the girl. I don't know personally how she met her. I don't even think I've ever even asked that question of how she met this lady.
4 have been arrested.
There's been
in
3
this case.
arrested.
3, okay.
And 2 of them were in her case, and the third one was in a case connected, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does completely.
Okay. 2 of them was it was the lady that sold Julia, that was Julia's friend. and then the trafficker himself.
So
So-
the friend, quote unquote friend, was being paid by the trafficker. Well, okay. Let's go with
she was
what
It-
we can and cannot.
yeah.
I mean, because
So-
trial you
no,
haven't gone to trial yet. but-
exactly.
okay.
I can tell you what I know. I
Okay.
was know that she was given gas money for my daughter.
Okay.
Can't tell you how much.
Okay.
But she was giving literally gas money for my daughter.
Okay.
I'd have given her more than that to bring her home.
Right.
You know.
The things we wouldn't give
Yeah.
to bring our children home.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's all I do know about what she received from this man.
Okay.
So
she goes off with this friend, and 24 hours roughly the next evening, you get a call from the police.
No, they actually showed up at our house a couple of days. There had been a full 24 hours, and they had shown up at our home and said that there had been an incident on the North Texas Tollway, and that our daughter had come out of a moving vehicle going about 85 miles an hour, and she was hit with an oncoming car, and she was killed. She died. She didn't make it. The very first thing I said was, what was she doing in Dallas? Number one. And then I turned around and looked at my husband and I said, I want my mama. And I don't even remember having a conversation with my mama, but I remember her coming in the door, But that's how we were told. And they told us that a homicide detective would be calling us, and that they believed it was human trafficking. The homicide detective did call us, and I didn't know what human trafficking was at that moment. And the detective called, and he said that she came out of a known trafficker's vehicle, and that there's still investigation going on, but it was definitely human trafficking.
So this perpetrator was someone they were already
Yes, ma'am.
watching. He was already a person
had
of interest.
He had 2 previous charges against him.
Do you find now, or even back then, frustration, or did you experience the frustration of going, why did someone who was already previously having 2 counts of human trafficking against them, why they were roaming free?
Yes.
To do this again?
We have asked ourselves that. I couldn't tell you how many conversations that we've had about him roaming free and why he was still out there, and why he was still victimizing others, even with it taking so long for him to get arrested. And it was through COVID and all of that. We were thinking, how many more victims does he have? The whole time we were sitting there wondering.
And this was during COVID.
Yeah.
In talking with law enforcement, or just in your own personal experience and conversations, do you feel that this time period through COVID made our kids even more vulnerable to reaching out to new friendships? And
definitely, because they were on the internet. That's why they were on the internet.
In this time period that you're experiencing and going through this so far, first of all, I can't even imagine what's going through either of your heads, because it's just so much to take on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you had to go to Dallas and identify your own child. No.
They actually had her identification. They had everything that when she came out of the vehicle, she had
everything on
her stuff on her. Yeah.
Was that relief for you that you didn't have to see her?
They said that them and the people at the funeral home that we happen to have known told us, y'all do not want to view. And they said we couldn't hold a viewing anyway. And I said, it's okay. It's ironic that probably 2 months before her death, we were in the living room dancing, and Chris and I were sitting there watching the kids, and they were dancing and we were laughing. They were doing that mad gab where they had the big teeth. And
Those are great.
yeah, and they were talking and we were playing around and Days of Our Lives. I don't know.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So there was
Absolutely.
okay, there was a lady on there that was holding a urn of her husband Tony's. And Julia
I know
says,
the episode.
yeah, Julia says, Mom, why is she carrying somebody's ashes? And I said, I don't know, Julia, people are crazy. I said, some of them put them on their mantle. Some will spread them across the sea. Some of them will, put them on a mountain. I said, some of them carry them in their purse in a cocktail thing,
They make
apparently,
rings out of them now.
Yeah,
Jewelry, yes.
exactly. And she said, oh, well, I want my ashes. I want half my ashes to go to school with Gwen to college, and I want the other half my ashes to be put on Jamaica Beach in Galveston, Texas, is what she wanted. She loved Jamaica Beach. We don't know what the obsession was, but she was obsessed with it. So it was crazy. But I said, okay, Julia. And Gwen giggled at her, said, you're not going to school with me, dead or alive. Just play it. And we were playing. And I said, besides that, Julia, you're going to be buried. And you would have thought I stood up and slapped her. I mean, she just, don't do that to me, Mama. Don't do that to me. That's all I could hear, and she was just literally having a fit, thinking she was going to be buried. And I said, okay, Julia, okay, calm down. And she was like, you cannot. I was like, okay, just calm down. I said, you know what? You have that discussion with your husband because I'm going to be long gone before anything ever happens with you. And she was okay. But Mama, don't you let them do that to me. Don't you let them do that to me. And I said, Julia, I won't be here. So you have that discussion with your husband or your siblings, And I mean, it was like she was telling us, I know that she didn't know, but she at least we knew what her wishes were. So when we went to the funeral home, I was had just talked to my stepmom and on the phone, and she told me what to expect. And we went to the funeral home, and I was fixing to go pick out a casket. And I told Chris, I said, we can't do that to her. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So
please.
she was cremated. And she was put on Jamaica Beach. So, I mean, I'm sorry. But yeah.
I'm going to need one too. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You're sorry. I'm sorry. How powerful, though, the way that I have goosebumps right now. There's this way that God has, and
Exactly.
and getting those things communicated.
Exactly.
And he knows our day,
Exactly.
and we don't. And that's just heart-wrenging. And
Yeah.
I think about all these parents
Exactly.
that are going to have to bury their children. And I literally cannot imagine
I've thought about that all
that day
weekend.
for you.
We've had conversations all weekend about what's going on down there, and our hearts just broke. I mean, I'm sitting there, because it kind of takes you back, and you're like, oh my God, these families, these parents are fixing to have to bury their children, and I was just, yeah. So I had been an emotional wreck all weekend.
I'm certain of it. And completely understandably, by the way, completely understandably. When was it? When was it at that point that you decided to? I mean, was it a while before you started to dive into the advocating for other children? And
It was so that once Julia passed away, of course, it was at the end of the school year, and our youngest daughter, Gwen, was having to go back and forth to work and school, and at that point, I wasn't more of a mother; I was a smother because I followed her to work. We would watch her walk in when we knew she was fixing to get off. We would watch her walk out, and we would run back home so she wouldn't know that we were following her, even though I think she kind of knew that we were following her. But, she would not tell us, y'all stop following me, because she knew. But the following year, she was captain of her dance team in the Showstoppers in Cleburne. And we were freaking out. I'm not going to lie. We were just having all kinds of anxiety. She's not going to be in our sight. We don't know this man's still not locked up. And it was just absolutely crazy. So I set it up to where we could have some people from Ghost Wrapped come out, and Jessica Proctor and her team come out and taught some of the dancers, including my daughter, self-defense and about human trafficking. Well, that was the first time I had actually listened and learned what human trafficking was. And as I'm sitting there listening to this, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And I run home and I tell him, I said, Chris, we were trained parents. We were trained parents by the state of Texas, and we didn't know this. And if we didn't know this, other people don't know this, you know? And I'm just sitting there. I said, we've got to let people know what this is about. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know, but we've got to do something. We can't just sit here and not do anything. And that's when we went to go see Representative Wayne Burns and spoke with him. And we came up with, so I wanted it mandatory. Oh, I had a long list of who all I wanted it mandated that had to do everything. I mean, it was bad. That man probably thought, oh my God, this lady's crazy. But that was okay. But we came up with the idea of putting human trafficking awareness in driver's education so that anyone that's taking driver's education in the state of Texas has to learn about human trafficking. And it's called the Julia Wells Act.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
So is that the first thing that you did that got passed and you were that's the first thing that you got done?
Yes, that was SB 1831. And the Julia Wells Act was put in SB 31, which also made trafficking in school zones a first-degree felony at that point.
We're about to go to commercial break in about 30 seconds because we're going to pick back up into your time spent in Austin when we come back from this commercial break. But it's really important for people to understand this educational piece is the most important thing we can do with our children. This is, I think, also one of the great parts of having other organizations out there that are also educating.
Yes.
And we'll touch on that a little bit too, and as well as your nonprofit organization. And knowing that human trafficking typically starts with someone they know. So stay tuned. We will be right back after this quick 2-minute break.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair, the world's lightest wheelchair, is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Will you follow the crowd or will you lead the way? You ain't meant to be the one who
One of my favorites. It's about being mouthy.
Yeah.
But from a Christian perspective, you know.
You're going to have to sing me that song.
I will gladly. She's one of my favorite Christian artists. Okay, I was going to read our reintroduction, but I dropped it. So I was going to go. Thank you guys for joining us here on the Mouthy radio show, and does turn into a podcast. And we are part of the NTX Radio family very proudly. ntxradio.com/mouthy is where you can find all the information on this particular show. Reach out to me and ask any questions that you might have, or if you have any show topics that you would like to be heard. We thank all of our valued sponsors for joining us and supporting us in our endeavors to bring light to a lot of different topics, and also our fun stuff. I mean, not everything's a deep dive, but the things that are a deep dive are extremely important, and human trafficking is absolutely one of those things. So thank you again for tuning in, and thank you, Mary Louise Wells, for joining us here on Mouthy and for saying yes. One of the things that I want to dive into, again, you had that first bill that you got passed.
Mhm.
And when was that? Within
That
the
was in
first year?
21.
That was
That
in
was in-
2021.
Mhm.
And from there, you've spent 6 years in
Going back and forth, yes.
I was going to say, how do we want to say this? Fighting in Austin.
Yes.
Because it is definitely a fight when you're diving into the political side of advocacy and wanting to get these things done to help protect people. It does become a fight when we get into political realm. And over this past 6 years, you've gotten 6 bills passed, 5 or 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
6.
6.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, that is absolutely amazing.
Yes, it comes with a lot of help though. No Trafficking Zone out of Houston are amazing. They are the ones that, of course, started the no trafficking in school zones and in the colleges and stuff. And then we were up there testifying for HB 3553 and 3554 in 23. And as I'm standing there talking, it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. Why are we fighting for zones? Why are we fighting for zones? You know, and so why is Texas not a no trafficking zone? I just didn't understand why why it wasn't. And so this year I was asked by one of the Attorney General officers that work for the Attorney General that's working on our daughter's case, says, Mary, is there anything we can do for you? You know, if there's anything we can do, let us know. And she started to leave, and well, there is something you can do. She said, what's that? And I said, I want a meeting with Senator Paxton. And she just kind of looked at me like, she was, oh, nobody's ever asked for anything. So, okay, and bless her heart, they got me a meeting and with her office. And so I spoke with them and said, I want to make Texas a no trafficking zone. Can y'all help me? And they were gracious enough to accept the challenge. And And I called Jacqueline Aledo from No Trafficking Zone. I said, Jacqueline, it's time. It's time that we make all of Texas a no trafficking zone. She said, I'm on board, sister. Let's do it. And so we filed SB 1212 with Senator Paxton in the Senate portion, and HB. We had Helen Kerwin go and pick it up from her from Senator Paxton, and they filed HB 3231. And Helen had also filed for us another one. I'm going to tell you, when we talk about bill numbers, I call them certain things because the numbers get monotonous.
Yes, completely.
So every one of them has a title to me. So then we had the bus stop bill, which if we didn't get the first degree in Texas, at least the bus stops where the kids were at would be protected as well. And then we had the pass the trash bill, to where we wanted, if you were working with a child, that you had to have an extensive background check in some facilities.
Does that include schools?
That is for RTCs.
Okay.
There is one out that's, I don't know if it got passed, and I don't want to say anything wrong, but I know that there are some, but it does include certain facilities, and if they're housing children, if yes, it's
Okay.
called pass the trash.
You and I can absolutely follow up with that so that I can share that information
yes.
on our
Of
website,
everything
on our
it covers,
Facebook.
but I'm pretty sure. I know that it covers RTCs and foster care facilities. I do know that it covers that.
Fantastic. And when you say protecting the bus stops, what's that mean?
Okay, so with the school bill, for somehow, some way, form, or fashion, bus stops were left off of the 1831 when we were doing the schools. So it made human trafficking a first degree felony at the schools and around the school, but it left nothing for the bus stops. And
Okay.
exactly.
So it added that back in.
So that we needed to add that back in. So that's what the bus stop bill did, was go back in.
Thank you so much for getting these done.
Well, thank you.
This has been a tireless advocating effort on your part for 6 years to create all of this change to protect not just your children, but everybody's children.
Yes, and this year we also had a bill go in. I called it the county kids bill. It was a child safety zone county kids bill is what I called it, and it was to keep. I call them red dots, but it was the higher offending sex offenders from living next door to a school. Now, I don't want people giving me hate mail. I don't want people thinking, I'm a horrible person. This was for the red dot sex offenders. It
Okay.
was for the ones that have repeatedly, and to children, not Romeo and Juliet, but to children repeatedly. So I just want that out there clear.
Well, that's important.
Well, we had a lot of back blow from that.
Sure.
So,
I
but we
mean-
also had a lot of support,
Absolutely.
but we just couldn't get over the finish line. And so that one is one that's going to be worked on again.
Well, I would think that backlash is going to come from people who think that it's okay to keep your other people's children within arm's length of
Right.
of possible dangerous people.
Exactly.
And that's just foolish.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
And that was-
you can't help it.
That
Ignorance
exactly.
sometimes.
Exactly. And so I was asked to bring that bill forth by one of our county commissioners, and we did that. And I looked at it. He asked me to look at it first, and I said, we need to take the green dot sex offenders out of here, because this is why we're having so much blowback. And now I can understand this, but this scenario, they shouldn't be in there. And so we worked through it and we got pretty far with it this year. They hadn't ever even had a committee hearing, so we got pretty far with it this year.
And what county commissioner was that?
Can I say their name?
Absolutely. He,
Oh.
if
Larry Woolley.
you said he, so
Yeah.
of course it was Larry.
Larry Woolley.
Larry Woolley,
Yeah,
precinct 3.
Yes, and so we worked really hard on getting that. He came up and testified, and we had a group there testifying for it, and it was really a good bill, and everybody climbed on board with that bill. We just one particular state representative just kind of sat on it until the last second. So, and
Do you
unfortunately,
find that just so, I mean, after presenting so many times that you've presented all this information over 6 years, do you still have moments of surprise when you have a particular or 5 particular state
yes.
reps that will sit back and go, "Well, I'm really not sure if this is important."
Or if they have a beef with the other reps. I have, yes. So, oh, well, they didn't vote for my bill. I'm not going to.
Right. It becomes,
Definitely.
it's politics,
It is.
and
And
you're playing with people's lives in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and, I understand that everybody's bills are important to them. I do. But at the same time, if it's a bill that involves kids, it shouldn't be a game. It shouldn't be a bargaining chip or anything else.
Right.
And this particular person, I was told, just didn't really help anybody, any of the other legislators.
Well,
So
then he or she is not doing what they're supposed to do for
exactly.
their constituents, for the people who they work for, which
Exactly.
is, again, it's a common problem that we experience in the United States, is chain of command. And
Yes.
people forget, not just those that are elected, that they are not at the top. Elected officials are not at the top. The
No.
people are. They work for us.
Exactly.
And it's become such a raging political game that is a whole nother show of conversation.
It really is.
I'm sure. So during these 6 years,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
your hard work to get these bills passed,
Yes.
and educating lawmakers on human trafficking and what we can do, and you probably don't know that I know about this, when was it that you advocated for special rooms within the hospitals, to develop rooms for victims of rape, human trafficking, and other trauma? I didn't tell you about that
Oh,
one.
you did not?
I know.
Okay, so that you took me by surprise. So let me tell you, I had a young lady call me, and she was very upset. And she, and we were in Galveston at the time, my husband and I. And she was just like, and I know that this is not the law, guys, so please no hate mail from anybody, but she was literally had just went through a exam, and they let her leave the hospital, and she was wearing kind of like a plastic jumpsuit kind of thing. And she was more humiliated about the plastic jumpsuit than anything. And this was in 2002. And so she was like, everybody knows. And she was just really upset. And I told Chris, I said, that can't happen. So I called, and it did not happen in Galveston. So I don't want anybody thinking that. But I called, and I asked the lady that was over the human trafficking at the hospital. I said, hey, can we have a meeting? So Chris and I went, and we met with law enforcement, with the hospital directors and everything. I said, look, we need a place these victims can go, whether it's a human trafficking victim, whether it's a sexually assaulted victim, and no matter what it is, where they can go and they can get fresh clothes. They can pick out their clothes. They can pick out their hygiene products, to where they get to have a choice, and it's not in a hospital setting. We need a room that is dedicated for these girls. And so that's where it started off, was talking in Galveston. And then we come back down here, and I called a director of nurses. Her name's Miss Vicky. And I called her, and I said, Miss Vicky, I said, can we have a conversation? And she said, yes, ma'am. And we had a conversation. And the next thing I know, they have room up in the hospital in Cleburne. And they asked if we wanted to put in a closet for Julia. And so it's called Julia Sacred Space. And so, and just anybody out there listening, if you have a hospital or a facility, if you want a Julia Sacred Space, please contact us. We would be happy to set one up.
While we're right there, tell me how people can contact you, especially for this right here.
If they want to go to our website, BT's, what is my website?
Hang on.
BT
I think I got it open still.
BCTX.
BTCTX.info.
Yes, I could not think for a second. My brain just went left. They can go in there, go on our Facebook, send us a message. Breaking the chains of human trafficking. Any way they can get a hold of us.
Okay. So, speaking of that, you have this nonprofit organization. It is about advocacy and education, and obviously these sharing resources, and now this closet. Can people donate clothing to you to put in these closets?
As long as it's new.
It has to be new. Okay.
Yes, it needs to be new. Going
Okay.
to a hospital, it needs to be new.
Okay.
Now, if we do, my goal in life, whether it be next year or 10 years from now, is to have a facility, a long-term care facility, to where we can have human trafficking victims and they can live there for a year or two, however long it takes, to get them set back on the path of where they feel safe of being out on their own, and a path to where they can be productive and take care of themselves.
So we used to have a show. She still has her show, No Judgment Here. Tish Ross, the amazing Tish Ross, who you interviewed with, was it 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Roughly. And Tish, we love you if you're tuning in. And I bring that up because Tish interviewed several survivors who were all hidden from camera because their cases were still open. And we heard some very harrowing experiences of people who were able to escape, which is absolutely amazing. The trauma that they experienced during their time in captivity is immeasurable.
Yes.
It's just absolutely immeasurable. And when we look at the history of slavery in our country, and if you're open to really looking at the history of slavery in our country, it is these victims are going through a lot of the similar things that we see in history, if you're willing to open your eyes and really look at what we were doing to human beings in this country.
Human trafficking is modern day
slavery. It is. It absolutely is. And these women and boys are also taken, need in complete love, health, rehabilitation, honestly, because some of them do get very brainwashed.
Yes.
They go through drug addiction.
Exactly.
Is also a very big part of it. And many are threatened.
Yes.
That if they are tell what's happening to them. I do know of a case where a girl, pictures of her were taken, and they threatened her. We will ruin your father. We will do all the things if we're not able to. So this is where those conversations of education with parents and of what to look for, which you think it's going to be a stranger, which, I mean, sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is. But the majority of the time, there's a trust and a relationship built before they take the person. And that's how they take them. And sometimes it's not a take. It's just happening on the day-to-day basis, which is what was happening with Julia. So I thank you guys again for all of your hard work and advocacy and for setting up these rooms. I think it's absolutely amazing to be able to give a woman the opportunity to have dignity.
Yes.
After going through a rape kit and exam, and to be able to walk out with shoes and clothing back on.
Exactly.
And so thank you so much for doing that.
Well, it's literally our pleasure.
So SB 1212, that is, as of right now, it's the last of what you've gotten passed. There is a portion of another bill that I believe you said was kind of pushed, or not pushed off, but handed over to another senator. Is that right?
It was handed over to another representative.
Okay.
So we had the bus stop bill was the one that was handed over to another representative. So
so we got another one in the works at the moment. You're not stopping.
It already passed. It has
that one already passed too.
And it went on an omnibus bill with a lot of other bills with a particular House representative, instead of it being a standalone bill, which is what we were hoping for. But instead of it being a standalone bill, it was passed to her. So.
And I'm assuming you're not done.
Oh no. No, no, no.
You're not done. Your work's not done. Well, during all of this, can you talk about the relationships that you were able to develop and maintain with law enforcement and district attorneys within our communities?
Yeah, we're willing to work with all law enforcement in through our communities. I'm sorry, and with the district attorney, Tim Good is amazing. He is
He's so good.
He really is. You know,
He's so good.
if I was
No,
gonna
he
commit a
is.
crime- yeah,
Seriously, yeah, he
if I
is.
was going to commit a crime, it would not be in Johnson County right
Right.
now. I promise you that.
Right.
He really is good, and he knows that there's an issue, and he attacks the issues. He's not afraid to. So I'm sorry I'm boasting about Tim Good, but he literally
I boast about him. It's okay.
okay,
Yeah.
but he literally has done amazing work with Johnson County. He really has, and or with all of District 58. He just has.
Yeah. He ran on not turning his eye to corruption.
Exactly.
And I believe that he is staying on that path. I pray he stays on that
Yeah.
path. I mean, he's done great things already for Johnson County. So
Yeah,
I'm so
he
glad that you
has.
have these relationships, ongoing relationships with district attorneys and law enforcement, because that's
Yes.
really important in everything that you do. What type of resistance or pushback have you experienced from any lawmakers, or have you?
The only pushbacks that we have received was, of course, the county kids bill, and it wasn't from lawmakers at all. When we were passing the doing the SB 1212, we were told that they thought 25 years minimum was too long, and we're like, no, it's not.
These are repeat offenders.
Yeah. Said, why are you going to do 25 to 99 in a school zone? But yet that same child that's in that school zone can walk 2 blocks and not have the same protection that they had in the school zone. Someone needs to explain the logic in this, why it's okay to give them 25 years if they've done it in a school zone and if they've done it at a college. But why is it not okay to give them 25 years so you give them 2 blocks down?
Right.
And why are we going to give probation? Oh, we'll just wait 2 blocks. You know, we can catch them 2 blocks down. We'll just get
Right.
probation for this. Why are we going to do that? You know, and it really, that was my argument. Whenever I was told that, I said, wait a minute, stop. Why? Why is that too long? We're giving it in school zones. We're giving it in the colleges. Why aren't we giving it across the board? And it got passed unanimously out of the House and the Senate.
Well, and that's the question. So the two-time perpetrator who was driving the vehicle, or that was caught.
My daughter's
Your
trafficker.
daughter. Yes, your
He
daughter.
had 6 months probation.
Yeah.
Prior.
I mean, did they understand that? Were you able to? Was that part of your
Yes.
story to them? I mean,
Yes.
look at
Whenever
my
I was at-
daughter would be alive right now.
Exactly. And when I was at the committee, and we were with Senator Paxton in the committee hearing, I let them know that my daughter's perpetrator had 6 months probation. That's what he did, was 6 months probation.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's really just, it's mind blowing.
And you know what? Whenever we look at his criminal history report, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't know if that 6 months probation was actually for human trafficking.
Right.
That's what we were told. So whether it was or not, I don't know whether he actually got a sentence for it or not, but he was convicted of it. That we were told it was 6 months probation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's all he received.
We've got 3 minutes, and I want to, and I feel like you and I are going to end up at this table several times together, because there's so much to talk about.
There
with
is.
with this. In fact, in all of it, and in sharing what we were going to talk about tonight, I've had people reach out to me already with to talk to other parents and to make some introductions. And so, and this is the power in what we do when we're getting mouthy about things, or we're using a platform to be able to talk about it, because you have to keep the conversation going.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything begins with education.
Education, education, education.
And then the next step in that education is usually a very determined set of parents.
Yes.
And so, again, here we are today because of the hard work you
Yes.
guys have put in to get here. So you've heard, we have a task. Well, I think it was initially called a task force, but it's now the Johnson County Human Trafficking Initiative that's launched here in in Johnson County. Right now, there's some confusion as to how it came about, but Helen Kerwin just posted something about town hall on Saturday talking about human trafficking. And then we saw another post about Mary Welch Sarver, who is a city councilwoman in Grandview, is also going to be talking on human trafficking. So after everything you've done, going back and forth and spending all this time in Austin, from policy advocacy to personal loss, were you surprised not to be asked to be a part of this effort?
Yes. I'm going to be honest, yes. But I was one of the ladies that is speaking there, Carol Livingston, she did reach out and ask me to come and talk about breaking the chains and what we did. But as far as being a part of, I don't know what it's called.
To my understanding, it's an initiative. There's really some things that are unclear, but I was reached out to by several people when they did see that I posted about our interview, and they were stunned that Representative Kerwin, instead of selecting you, selected Mary Welch Sarver, who's a figure with documented history of child abuse accusations and no history of experience with human trafficking. And so there was this confusion as to why wasn't it Mary Louise Wells, and instead we have someone who has no experience, and here you've done all this stuff in Austin. So do you think in the future you'll be invited to be a part of this initiative or to be an advocate in some way?
I'm always going to be an advocate, but I think I'll stick with breaking the chains and the organizations that I'm familiar with, and the organizations that support us and that we support, and we have some great organizations out there in the community, So
our time is up.
Oh,
but man, there's so much more to talk about, which I definitely would like you to come back and do all of those things with. Again, if you are ready to give, please go to Breaking the Chains Facebook page, go to the website, join Mary in this fight, and all of the amazing people that you have on your team, and her husband, Chris, as well. And I thank you guys so much.
We're having a golf tournament in October.
You're going to share that with me after,
yes.
And I'm going to get that shared.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you back here getting a little more mouthy next week. Have a great week, and God bless.
Call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day and if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Design.